Hi, guys. I wanted to record a message for this week titled, Do You Have Access to Infinite Love and a Higher Power? Which we would probably call the spirit realm. Um, Science calls it uh, different things. It's like a divine matrix, a quantum field of energy that everything's connected. And um, the really amazing part about this, in my opinion, is that the sciences really just started to explain this quantum entanglement that once something's connected, it's always connected. And once something's part of a whole, even if you separate it physically, it still acts as if it's part of the whole energetically. And so a change in energy in one place in time has the same change in energy in all places in time. And the amazing thing is that um, science really can't explain how it works. They can just explain that it works. And scriptures are almost the same thing to me. They're trying to describe the same concept from different angles, where almost every culture in the world, and especially like the Christian culture, if you grew up like I did, they believe in prayer. They believe that what we do within, that we can access this higher power, and it changes the outer world for us. It changes situations for us. And I think it's entirely true. I just think it's even more magnificent than what we've been taught. And so, uh, if you start thinking about this quantum entanglement, that once something's unified or a whole, it's always a whole, even if you separate it physically. It acts as everything still is whole and connected. And so, if you just allow yourself to think about this, is if you believe in the concept of God, which most people do, it's kind of fun because even atheists and agnostics, they describe God perfectly to me. When I ask them, if you could believe in a God, what would it be like? Or what would this entity, this being, what would it be like? And they just reject the religious God, but they somehow intuitively know that everything's connected and God is infinite love and in harmony with everyone. And so, what's really fascinating to me is when we say things like what you do within, or what you experience within, the energy within, which is energy in motion, is has the same effect, and every atom in the universe moves to fulfill what you just thought and felt within. And science is proving this, which is really interesting. And so, uh, the really crazy part to me is what we've been talking about is time doesn't seem to move linearly as we experience it here when you're in the spirit realm, as if there's no time where everything exists at once. And it appears that the spirit can go backwards, forwards, frontwards, and it change in one space and time. If you've experienced the feeling of abundance, love, and divine vibrancy or health now, it says it lines up everything in your life in all times and spaces to make that a reality for you right now. And that's really a fascinating concept because uh, what we've been sharing is you don't have to live with regrets or be anxious about the future. If you just pay attention to what you do now, it's as if the thing that you are avoiding or still feeling trauma for in the past, or let's go to the future now, the thing that you're worried about that might happen to you in the future, seems to be the spirit knows all things. It's in all things. It's no time or space. If we really believe the spirit is God, which most people do, is we would have to ask ourselves, was that spirit present in us 20 years ago? Well, of course it was. Is that same spirit going to be present in us in the version of us that's 20 years older in the future? Of course it is. And what they're finding is one change in one place today has the exact same effect, or takes into account today, what you do today, the 20-year-old spirit and the 20-year future spirit. I'm laughing at myself because trying to describe the spirit realm, trying to describe God and the quantum world is clunky at best. Like I said, we can just be in awe of how amazing everything is that works. And so anyway, it's quite funny because if you go read, I was looking at, somebody had asked me about the great I am today, and if you go look in, for instance, like John 6:51, it talks about ego I may, or I am, and it talks about this bread, or lachem, of life, and it talks about ek, where we get the word ecclesia, or church. It's kind of interesting. And so if you look at ek, Let me just show you maybe. Let me share my screen with you. All right, let me do this. Let me go here, John 6:51. I'll read it in English first. I'm the living bread that came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. All right. So if we go to interlinear, we see after these things went away, Eusus, oh, I want 51, not 1. Sorry. 651. All right. Ego eimi, I am the bread. Artos in Greek is kind of interesting, but ego. You shall behold the rising up, the gamma or the kamel of the last covenant that exists, and you shall behold the finished work of all finished works, and the mem or the muddy water of flow, which is life, artos, lachem in Hebrew, is what it says. If you go here in Hebrew, it's lamed chet mem, and mem is the mighty water or flow that separates from the staff. And so, and it's talking about, and you shall behold this ek. I wanted to give this heck. And here you've got the cosmic womb of the last covenant of heaven. Well, it just means the rising up, or Uranus, if you go look at it. Heaven. Heaven, singular plural, have distinct overtones. And heaven, it'll say the same thing as oros, the root meaning to cover. That means to bless. It means you're having intimacy, guys. And here you have the fire, or the consummation of the finished work, yod, in between the mems of all mems. So this is intimacy between you and God. And so it's literally talking about the rising up of the life within you, that from the same as oros, through the idea of an erection or elevation, guys. In Hebrew, it'll be mountain or ar, but the mountain orosh. So you shall come to reveal the rosh, the consummation of the highest point of man. Rosh or resh is head. The mountain or a hill, it's literally talking about a rising up, guys. And the Septuagint for mountain was R, where we get Ararat, the rising up of Ararat. It's not a mountain in Turkey, guys. It's the rising up within you. And so you shall behold the race, the highest point of the man, which is they called the mountain. It was literally talking about something that rises up, and what comes out of that rising up is the life or the seed that carries the nature of the Father. So I want to just show you this ek, though, because this is where we get ecclesia or ekkaleo, what we call church. Let me just show you this ek. So the translators translate it from, sorta, but you really don't get the meaning of what it is. It comes from the Hebrew epsilon kappa. I'm sorry, the Greek epsilon kappa, which originates from the Hebrew hey kof, which I'll show you here in a second. So, but ek, properly out from and to, out of, is one of the most undertranslated and therefore mistranslated Greek positions. And even they are mistranslated, in my opinion, because it says, you shall behold the life that comes up from the rising up, or life that comes from the inside that is expressed outward. And so let me just show you this. So if you go look at these letters here, epsilon, kappa in Greek. So if you go to Greek, you can, this is just Wikipedia. So here's epsilon. Epsilon, it's the value of 5, which you'll know this is hey in Hebrew. It's derived from the Phoenician letter hey. All right. And here you get the K or kaf or kappa. Oops, I need to get up so you can see this here a little bit. There we go. Is derived from Phoenician letter kaf, which arose to form kappa or K in English. So, all right, so it goes from epsilon kappa. So now let's go to the first one. So if you go, epsilon comes from hey. Oops, I want to show you this ka here in a second. I clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry. So epsilon comes the number 5. It's the Hebrew letter hey. It's literally a picture of a man with his arms up, like behold, hey, or breath. It means something shall be revealed, or you shall see what comes from. A lot of times if you go, hey, we'll talk about the creative ability of God that is revealed. And kapha is the palm or the covering. Now, here's what's interesting. If you go to, let's go look at this kaf in Hebrew for Christians once. So if you go to Hebrew for Christians and go to the alphabet, you go to kaf, it's the number 20. So I've been telling you, if you go look at, there's 20 all over the place in Hebrew, guys, and you'll start to get the meaning of what it really means. So the letter kaf, the mystery of kaf, the Jewish mysticism, the letters of the word kaf are initial letters of the two Hebrew words koach, potential, where we get this concept that quantum's trying to describe, that all things, the potential existence of any possibility exists. So is there a possibility that you're amazing, abundant, whole, and loved? Of course there is. And what's really cool is we're going to show you, when you feel amazing, loved, and abundant now, no matter what you've done in the past or didn't do in the past, no regrets, everything lines up as if the Spirit took it into account. Hey, I know the real you, the now you in 2024 is going to be praying in this very way. So it takes that into account and brings you right there, as if you've done the right thing forever. And the mystery is, even if you've made tons of mistakes, even your mistakes prosper. So if you, as we talked about last week, if you chose choice A, somehow the Spirit takes into account the fact that you're feeling abundant today, the fact that you're feeling healthy today, the fact that you're feeling loved today, and makes that the right choice. If you would have chose B, the Spirit of God arranges all people, all things, all places, all times to make B the perfect choices of your life, as if the game is rigged for you. So it takes any potential and brings it into the pay, the spirit that comes out of our mouth, poel, actual. Pay, el, the what comes out of this opening of the head, which they call pay in Hebrew, and el, where we get El Shaddai, Elohim. The word, the spirit that comes out of your mouth creates. So the hidden power of the spiritual potential to be made into the actual physical. So if you take epsilon, which is hey, it says you can take any potential and bring it into the poel, actual, because of the intimacy between you and God. That's literally what ek means. What you do from within comes out, and everybody shall experience that life or bread. Isn't that cool? Now, where I was showing you this little diagram, this is from Becoming Supernatural. In fact, one of the greatest quotes from Bible school that I still love, which is what intrigued me in the beginning anyway, is the bishop at the time said, the problem with you guys is you've lived among the humans too long. And his point was, you've forgotten your true nature, which is the supernatural. And that doesn't mean it's weird. That doesn't mean you're overly spiritual. Everybody is supernatural. Everybody, life is revealed from what they do from the inside out. And the people that just become aware of it know how to function in it better. In fact, it's often not the guys flopping around, rolling around, overly spiritual, think they see something behind every tree, or they have a word of God every time. That's usually just strange interpretations of scripture where they've kind of made it about themselves. But this, if you go look at this, guys, what I find fascinating is thousands of years before we had our Western scriptures, the Eastern thought they had our meridian systems, our nervous systems, completely mapped out without any scientific instruments, without any microscopes. How did they know? Because the Spirit of God has all the answers in all times and spaces. They could tap in and draw out. Now, Dispenza widely calls these energy centers, but there's one above you, which is Ka, Kappa. In Egypt, the Egyptian idea was Ka, this life of you and God that exists, the covering between you and God. And so, as I've shared with you many times, when people take the scriptures and mistranslate them literally, where it says the male covers the female, or man covers the female, that's how the first covenant is produced and life is produced. In English, it says, but God covers the man. But that word man is anthropos. And if you go look at it, it says male and female. So hyper-religious cultures that don't understand what the scriptures are saying, they typically make the female wear head coverings. And the more religiously are, the more they have to cover because of that mistranslation of scripture. But literally what it's saying is, guys, God coughs you. You and God are in intimate connection together. And what you do, this resh, in the highest point of man, shall be revealed from the inside out. It says you and God are having intimacy, and what you do is the creative power of God that comes out of you. Now, that's ek. That's where we get ecclesia, where we get the word church. If you go look at this, I think, yeah, look, an assembly, a religious congregation has nothing to do with the church, has nothing to do with that building downtown. It has nothing to do with people of a certain religion getting together on a Sunday. It means you assembled together with God, you and God are having intimacy versus male and female. All mankind has intimacy from God. And what you do there comes from the inside out. This life that comes from the inside out of intimacy with you and God shall be revealed. At Kaleo, it has nothing to do with the building. In fact, what I wrote in Facebook in the email, I said, imagine if those buildings we call churches actually talked what church was about, that nobody's separated from God. And I find it interesting if we would just sit back and think about this a little bit, guys. This works the same whether you're Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist. It all works the same. It doesn't even matter which book they're reading from. They all experience this. Isn't that fascinating? If a Hindu couple has intimacy, does the same seed turn into the life from God? Of course it does. If a Muslim plants a tulip, does it come up as if a Christian planted the tulip, or somebody of the Jewish faith planted the tulip? Of course it does. It's independent. This is the timeless spirit that everything is connected by the spirit realm, which is the source of God. And like I said, the fascinating thing is what you do in one time and space today makes it as if all time and spaces are connected. Now, let me share some ideas with you and then how we can make this practical, guys, because it's you and God together. It's this beautiful intimacy, and the life that you're sure to build from the inside out is out from and to with results. So I wanted to share this. Let me share Dying to Be Me by Anita Morjani again a little bit. So when she entered in that near-death experience, she said that she had some very religious ideas, that she believed in a fearful God. She believed in hell. She believed a lot of these things. And if you read the book, guys, she said what she learned in Sunday school is the thing that caused her fear and ultimately caused her cancer. Now, that's interesting. When your theology is the thing that causes cancer, maybe you got the wrong theology. And when she had that near-death experience where she was out of her analytical mind, she was literally in the spirit realm, she goes, I realized I was completely wrong, that everything is connected and there's no judgment and there's perfect love. So let me just read this to you. She said, what I'm trying to get at, guys, is you have access to this infinite love and the higher power. And it's just beyond the analytical mind or the conscious mind. So the idea of all of this is to get beyond the analytical mind so you can tap into that infinite power of God that has no limits, it's limitless. In fact, what you do in that spirit realm, every atom in the universe moves to fulfill what you do there with no effort on your part. It's how we're designed. We are designed to live naturally supernatural. And so it's interesting. She said, I realized I was loved unconditionally for no other reason, simply that because I existed. I was transformed in an unimaginable clarity. This is page 70. I realized that this expanding, magnificent essence was me. It was the truth of who I really am, my true being. I was looking into a new paradigm of myself, becoming the crystalline light of my own awareness. Nothing interfered with the flow, glory, and amazing beauty of what was taking place. I became aware that we're all connected. This was not only every person and every living creature, but the interwoven unification felt as though it were expanding outward to include everything in the universe, every human, animal, plant, insect, mountain, sea. I realized the entire universe is alive and infused with consciousness, encompassing all life in nature. Everything belongs to the infinite whole. I was intricately inseparably enmeshed with all life. We are all facets of all unity. We are one. Scripture talks about this concept of oneness, which is the strength of God. And each of us has an effect on the collective whole. Now, here's the really interesting part. This spirit realm, like I said, if we can start to get our eyes or our arms around this concept that is the same spirit that was from the beginning, which is really the source behind everything that is, because everything that is created out of the only thing that existed, which was the spirit realm or the energy of God or the presence of God. Everything came out of God. And quantum science is showing scientifically that once something's connected, even if you separate it, you and I look like we're separated. Our 20-year-old self and our 20-year self in the future appears to be separated. But quantum is saying this thing that connects us all, which is the energy of God or the spirit realm, there's no time. It doesn't function literally. What you do in one space and time has the same effect in all spaces and times, which gets really exciting if you start to understand this. So she realized she's unconditional love and she is infinite ability with no effort. She says this, what happened is incredibly hard to describe. This is page 74 now. First, it felt that whatever I directed my awareness to, people get hung up on the concept of awareness. You could just call it whatever I chose to pay attention to, place my awareness on. Oh, I'm aware. If I was sharing this in the fellowship the other day, it's as simple as this is, um, if I say, hey, become aware of the earwax in your left ear. You all probably have earwax in your left ear, but you weren't aware of it until you started to pay attention to it, right? That's all it is. Whatever you start to pay attention to becomes. And it says, it felt as though whatever I directed my awareness toward appeared before me. Second, time was completely irrelevant. See, in the spirit realm, there's no regrets like we were talking about. And you can use it for the big three. You can use it for abundance, vibrant health, and love. And usually it's people have the concept of lack of those things or fear that they don't have enough of those things. Here's what's really cool is anything you paid attention to right now, time is completely irrelevant. Meaning it doesn't matter if you made all the wrong decisions in any of those areas of your life. What you do today somehow that has the same effect as if you did the perfect thing 20 years ago, and it provides a blueprint that you're going to do the perfect thing 20 years from now. One change in space and time has the effect in all spaces and time. So what you do today affects the past and the future. So he says, doctors conducted tests. She was about to die of cancer, and they were checking to see if her organs were shutting down. Said doctors conducted tests on the function of my organs, and their report had already been written. Here's the infinite possibilities, and God, or the infinite love of God, the presence of God, whatever you want to call it, it's stacked in your nature, in your favor. God will do everything to ultimately bring every one of you to realize your oneness and perfect love and perfection. Even if you quote unquote made all the wrong decisions, what you do right now, or choose to do right now, he'll make it as if you made all the right decisions so that you feel abundant and are abundant, that you feel loved and always been loved, and so you feel vibrant and healthy. So check this out. So she comes in, they do the tests, and the tests had already been written. She's in the spirit realm seeing all this. This is the part that's great. But in that spirit realm, it seemed as though the outcomes of those tests and the report depended on the decision I had yet to make, meaning every atom in the universe moves to fulfill you guys. You get to play. If I chose death, remember the reports have already been written. If I chose death, the results would indicate organ failure. If I chose life, the results would say my organs began to function again. What you do in the spirit realm affects all spaces and times. She said, it was then that I understood that my body is simply a reflection, the outer world, the physical realm, of my internal state or spirit realm. If my inner self were aware of how great it is, and that is connected to all that is, my body would soon reflect and heal rapidly. So she said, when you realize that there's nothing hindering the flow of God except beliefs, when you go, I choose to not believe that, and I'm gonna remind myself that I have access to an infinite power and a love beyond me. And I simply, all I need to do is let go of the limiting thoughts of the analytical mind and realize I'm connected to God, the very source behind everything. And that very source responds to me. And as if what I do in my prayer time or meditation has effect in all spaces and times. It's so great, guys. She said, when you realize that, and here's what's cool, when you get out of the analytical mind, whether you do it by breathing or listen to music, or you just slow your mind down, you naturally do it as you go to bed, and you naturally do it as you wake up. You're in that alpha creative state where you're beyond the analytical mind, the logical mind, where you get into kaleo, the ka, where you have intimacy with God and all things become possible. You have access to this state. I wouldn't have to pursue anything or figure out how it was going to be. It would all simply unfold. All I had to do was be myself, which is pure infinite love. Realize how amazing you are. Realizing that once you get past the analytical realm, you have access to a higher power and a higher love. And a good thing to remember, guys, is anything really that hard for God? This is not a big deal for God. No matter what it looks like in the physical, it's not a big deal for God. That's what you need to remind yourself. So if you're yourself getting anxious about anything, just go, wait a minute. I know I have access to a higher power and an infinite love that responds to me. And nothing is a big deal to that infinite God, that infinite love that's within me, that moves for me and responds to me. I can simply allow God, I can allow him to take care of this. And when you go, hey, you know what? I'm going to let this thing go. I'm worrying about this thing. But I know if I feel abundant right now, It's as if I've been abundant my whole life and made every decision to be abundant right now. If I choose to feel loved right now, I don't care how much trauma or how many people wronged, quote unquote, wronged you in the past, is as if everything worked out to your favor where you realize you're loved and you feel loved through all time and space, meaning you don't have to live with any more trauma. You can be free tonight. Do you really want to be free? Then you'll start to grasp this concept. And she also understood my body would soon reflect and heal rapidly. It wouldn't take time and space. Remember, she said time and space didn't matter. She had the realization of how great she was. And anything she placed her awareness on simply became. So when she realized, I'm great, I've always been whole and loved by God, her body would naturally reflect that wholeness. She said, I wouldn't have to pursue anything or work it hard. It wouldn't take it wouldn't take weeks or months to heal. Her whole body would heal within days. And that's exactly what happened, guys. Flesh grew back, muscle tissue grew back in days. And the doctors were amazed, she became aware that she has access to this higher power and love. Now, there's one other source I wanted to share, which was Greg Braden's Divine Matrix. And this is so great too. He's trying to describe the same thing, guys. And he talks about, I shared before, the science experiments that changed everything. And the one was when the U.S. Army performed experiments on a donor in a cell. They took cheek cells. They ultimately moved them 350 miles away from the donor. So these are just cells. In our natural mind, we would go, oh, those cells are obviously going to die and not function because they've been removed from that body, right? But everything's made out of the source of life when you start to understand it. And they showed without a shadow of a doubt that when they experienced fear, the DNA in those cells experienced the same thing and started to deregulate and perform poorly as if they were still attached. When they showed them images that made them feel loved, when they felt whole, feel infinite, the DNA healed, even though they're 350 miles away with no time and space. Now, this is really cool. So this is from page 108. They try to describe it as a universally collected hologram. I think it's easiest just to say everything's connected. We've always been connected. Everything that is connected and made up of the same substance, which is the divine creative energy of God, or science calls it photons, light packets of energy of light. And what we choose to think and feel actually rearranges those thoughts and light, or those photons. And that's been proven over and over and over and over and over and over and over, guys. Simply, if you expose DNA to photons, it rearranges the photons. Just DNA, not a human, not somebody consciously meditating or praying. Just the DNA responds to the life within the human. So he says this: any change we wish to see in the world, from healing, safety for our loved ones, to peace in the Middle East or any other of the 60 plus nations now engaged in armed conflict, doesn't have to be sent somewhere from our hearts and minds to the places where it's needed. It's not necessary to send anything anywhere. Once our prayers are inside of us, they're already everywhere. Remember, a change in energy in one space and time that's connected has changes of energy in all spaces and times. Oh boy. Visionary and philosopher Irvin Laszlo described the reason why this is so. All that happens in one place happens in all places. All that happens in one time, the 20 years ago you, the now you, the 20 years from now you, happens in all times. Nothing is local, limited to where and when it is happening. Whew, that's so good. We'll talk the practicality of this. And then if he goes into there, he talks about the shoot, I just transferred the page, but he talks about I think I just found it again. Yeah, the Middle East International Peace Project, the Middle East, where people are saying, stand for this country, pray for this country. I don't care which side of the thing you're on. When you experience peace within your own body is what brings peace to the other people in those regions, not you praying for God, your God, to beat the other God in that country. That's called religion, and we're really good at it. It's not actually how things work, guys. That's just what the interpretation of your book, how things worked. And they've shown that. Here's what's really amazing. When people, he talks about this, it says, when they created peace in their bodies, meaning they emotionally felt peaceful, it brought peace to the Middle East. Not praying for this country or that country or God, please come back soon. None of that. I train my body to feel peace. I get into that alpha theta state, which you can do breathing, you can listen to music, you can meditate, however you calm your brain down to stop thinking about your problems. When you get rid of those limitations, you enter to the spirit realm where every potential exists. Your body will naturally heal and things will start to move into harmony and happy. The only lack you experience, guys, are limiting beliefs that you've accepted. What's really cool is when you get into alpha and theta, those limited beliefs go away and anything you place your attention to becomes. That's how effortless it is. So if you start seeing yourself as abundant and you start to feel how good it feels to be abundant, if you start seeing yourself as loved and how good it feels to be loved and whole, if you start seeing yourself to be vibrant and whole, it's as if you've been vibrant and whole in all spaces and times. I don't care if you've smoked your whole life, for instance, that's matter. Seeing you having a change of energy today as if you've never smoked your entire life. It's so cool, guys. So, which leads me to uh, what we were kind of sharing. Let me give you one more example to get this. If we truly knew how great we were, that everything is connected and every atom in the universe moves to fulfill any desire, we would not have a lot of fear about things. My goal, and I think every true minister's goal that understands, is to help people experience God, is help to experience this infinite love and power that connects all things and somehow mysteriously responds to us in all times and spaces. So let's just take abundance, because we were talking about this with some people. I always thought it was weird that you're this child and you're happy-go-lucky and everything's provided for you. And then slowly we get these ideas, well, money doesn't grow on trees, what are you going to do when you grow up? Which all implies that you can't live from the inside out and experience that life. It's what do you do externally to produce a life? And that's one way to do it. As Dispenza would call that matter changing matter, or you can learn to create from the field where everything physical responds to what you do within. So if you feel abundant within, as if you've made every choice abundant. So let's just take that for instance. I remember specifically when I was at the Air Force Academy, when 8 p.m., the first day of your junior year, now you're committed. And so people had the choice to, at that time, I don't know if they still do today, to opt out of the academy and go, you know what, I'm not sure I want to go do this for another 2 years in school and then give them 5 more years. But I stayed. And I remember they called academic call to quarters. And at 8 p.m., I remember this distinctly, sitting in my room. I go, I guess my life is over. Not literally like I was going to die that day, but the fun of life is over, because I looked at adults and people, I didn't see that many happy. I was taught, if you go to school, get a good job, this is how it's going to work. Yes, that's matter changing matter. But then I saw other people that do any of that, and they seem to be vibrant. They seem to be having all kinds of fun. It didn't even matter if they mowed their lawn on Sunday, because I grew up where you couldn't mow their lawn. So these guys are out there having an adult beverage and mowing their lawn on Sunday, and they're prospering like crazy. And I just remember going, how does that work? Because it's not anything what I'm being taught in this church building. Well, they were creating from the inside out, right? So somehow we got to go do all this work, create a living, do all these things. And I thought it was weird that I'm talking about my own life now, what I was being taught. The minute I got my degree, now I need to start planning for retirement so I went to school to get a job. And the second I get out, they put in financial planners at the academy, they go, now you got to start planning to get out of this job. If you just sat back and go, that is the existence of life. No, that's why I said I felt like, I guess my life's over. All the fun and games is over. Now I got to be a real serious person. Well, problem with that is you've lived among the humans too long. I see people living these magnificent lives with hardly any effort. They're doing it from within, guys. And so I'm not saying hard work and all these things aren't bad. That's matter changing matter. That's the progressive route. But there is a way. Let's just take abundance, for instance. Let's say you didn't listen to the advisors. You didn't plan or save for anything. You did everything wrong. You made mistakes, etc. But quantum is saying this: what you do today has the effect in all times and spaces. So this is the concept, guys. When you realize that you have access to this higher power, is it hard for God to generate abundance in a short period of time? Like how long does it take God to be God? No time, right? So is it hard for God to be God? No, not at all, guys. So then the question becomes, well, how much time does it take? No, no, no. The spirit realm doesn't work in linear time. It's as if everything exists right now. So if you choose to experience abundance now, the change in energy in one space and time is connected to the 30-year-old you that made the mistakes, the 10-year-old that made mistakes. And it's also connected to the one that you're worried about having abundance in the future. What you do in one space and time has the effect as if it's in all spaces and times. So if you choose to feel and experience abundance now, it's as if you've done everything right your whole life and everything's going to be right for the future. You could say it that simple like this. What if you've never saved a dime, but you start to realize who you are right now and you can experience abundance now as if you've saved your whole life and you didn't make any mistakes? Somehow the game is rigged for you. That's what the quantum world's saying, that everyone shall experience this infinite the covering and blessing of God. So you realize you truly are one. You truly are loved. You truly are abundant. You are connected to this higher source of infinite love and power that responds to you. And nothing's a big deal for God. It can do it today in no time. So I hope that helps, guys. God bless.